let's hit the film here and let everybody take another look at Braden Tyson. Very impressive film. And Chris, I think first and foremost, the thing other than the size, other than the fact that this kid breaks tackles, has good vision, is just the fact, man, that you're talking about someone who is incredibly productive at the high school level. And as we've talked about, that's not always direct translation to how well or how good you're going to be at the next level. But these guys that are truly going to be top of the line SEC backs, you better be pretty productive at the high school level. And that's normally a sign where if you aren't, that's maybe a sign that it's going to be tough. Even if you have some of the other features you'd be looking for in a back, might be tough to make that jump to the SEC.
There was I just played that clip at the goal line there, Wester, in the red zone that got you in trouble a week or two ago. So, look, whatever you think, like when you watch this film, you're going, all right, this is a big kid. And I think you brought this up the other day, maybe on the radio show. He's listed at 6'1", 215 on his On3 profile. That does not seem to match on the film because he looks bigger, than 215 pounds. What he's playing at right here on film, I couldn't tell you. But certainly at times he's been a little heavier than that. I think one of the things that the South Carolina staff is excited about is the fact that he could play at this weight, this size that you see. You could trim him up some. You could keep him that way, right? Like you have some flexibility here because this is a big kid who's not going to be someone that you look at as, hey, this is a guy that's going to break off a few, 80-yard runs at the SEC level. That's not as much his game. But what Braden Tyson does bring you is a guy that's been you're not that productive at the 6A level in Georgia if you don't have some speed, right? You've got to be able to run at that level. You can't get 3 yards in a cloud of dust and put up 2,200 yards as a high school sophomore. Certainly as the competition gets higher and everybody can run when you play in the SEC or in, the Big Ten Power 4 football. Again, this is not going to be a speed merchant at that level. But what he does have is the qualities that you really love to see in a running back, and that is he's got size. He shows really good vision on film. He's got a really good feel of when to push things, right? When to bounce in and out of gaps. He can run through contact. He's got really good balance as a runner. And he's also got some power, in there where he can run through contact and run through tackles. So, and the production's hard to argue with. This isn't a kid where you go, okay, well, what type of competition level is he playing against? He's playing 6A football in the state of Georgia at a program in Brookwood that's been really good and has, about 3,500 yards over the past 2 seasons, Wes, and really, really looking forward to seeing what he does as a senior this season as well.
Yeah, you got to love the feet, the footwork at that size. And, I really like the phrase for some guys, contact balance. Like, how do you, to me, it's a little bit deeper than just power. It's kind of how do you deal with a collision and stay on your feet and keep going? And a lot of people like him, yes, the power is there when necessary, but he's kind of one of those guys, Chris, that I feel like a little bit just avoids the big hit. Like not necessarily that you would maybe see that on his highlight anyway if he did get blown up, but just watching the way he maneuvers through traffic, watching the way he runs through tackles, guys just don't appear to be getting those solid shots on him. And I think that's something that can translate. And, going back to the production, his sophomore year, and we actually, let's see, I may be able to bring up the sophomore. That was I think that was junior film or just overall film. Sophomore year, he was even more productive than he was his junior year, went for over 2,000 yards, averaged 10 yards a carry. And that, Chris, watching him right there, that might be when he was 215. There's maybe a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit more speed here, a little bit more top end speed. I mean, he's listed some places I saw at 235, which I actually would believe, to be honest with you, looking at the film and seeing him in person a little bit. There you see the contact balance right there in that clip. But I think you're just talking about someone who fits the mold of what Stan Drayton, in our early time tracking him, it feels to me like Stan Drayton, he is interested in these sort of big, powerful, just strong backs that can hang in there, that can run the football if necessary 20 times in a game, that can hold up over the course of a season. Not that you're necessarily going to give it to them that many times in a game, but just I think there's a certain amount of added value if you have this size, if you are a kid like Braden Tyson. And I feel like we've seen Stan Drayton sort of, I guess, operate with that as a strategy in terms of who he's targeted. And also, Chris, I think we got to mention here, man, the Gamecocks breaking through. Great cut there. The Gamecocks breaking through in high school recruiting. Now, they did have a high school back committed last cycle. We're not able to hang on to him, but to be able to, assuming you do end up signing Braden Tyson, break through, they're going to try to sign a second one too, and actually go into the high school ranks and land a running back, which is obviously something they've wanted to do.
Yeah, you pretty much knew that South Carolina was not going another recruiting cycle without signing a high school back. It was one of those things that was absolutely going to happen. And as you noted accurately, they do want a pair. But you got to get one before you can get a pair, right? And so been several guys that they were juggling. It's also important, obviously, not just to go sign a guy to sign a guy. You want to sign impact players. And so Tyson's been he was a very kind of fascinating ebb and flow type of recruitment. And there's been several of those actually at the running back position. One reason being, Wes, is frankly, you had a running backs coaching change. You had an offensive coordinator change. For someone like Braden Tyson, who first got an offer in 2023, he has spoken to now 3 different offensive coordinators in Columbia too, between Dow Loggins, Shula, and now Kendall Briles. And so there are some ebbs and flows to this thing, but he's always been on the board. And we got the sense going into his official visit last month, that first visit weekend that South Carolina had, that this could end up being a big-time guy for them. And certainly that ended up being the case. So not only are you breaking through and getting a back in this class, but you're getting a back who, as we said, has been super productive and has really, really good tape. I think you made a good point, too, here, Wes. I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs of the Brookwood football program between 2023 and 2020 or 2024 and 2025. Obviously, Tyson had a good season last year, but he had a huge season as a sophomore. Maybe they also had a better team around him. I don't have it in front of me, but he does look a little lighter here. I think you put on either tape, and they're both really, really good. But right here, when he looks a little bit lighter on film, he seems to have a little bit more speed, a little bit lighter on his feet, while still, making cuts and being technically sound and, running through contact like that. Great point about guys just not being able to square him up and get a great shot on him. That's something that as a running back, you just kind of have a feel for, right? You kind of either have it or you don't. You can coach some of it to guys, but he just has a really natural feel for the game. And the more I watch of him, honestly, the more I like him as a running back get in this class.
Well, I don't think you could get a feel in the junior film for his ability as a pass catcher. And I feel like now going through this sophomore film here live, like I actually haven't watched this until now. You saw a few just opportunities with the ball in the air. And again, it's a highlight. So I don't know. Maybe he dropped a few too, but just watching, I just watched how do guys react to the ball being in the air? Do they adjust to it? Do they have to cradle the ball? Do they catch it naturally? And, for a running back, to me, looks like someone in this kind of small sample size, of course, who can catch the football for you out of the backfield a little bit and adjust to the ball and do those things, which you would imagine are going to be a part, certainly, of a Kendall Briles offense that he wants to install here in Columbia. So